we're going to be talking about the future, because project management is all about people, and it is all about the people of the future. We need to know who are we going to expect in terms of demographics so that you know how to better manage them. Because there are big shifts happening right now in the US. We're going to talk about 4 trends today. The first trend we're going to talk about is longevity. Some people talk about generations. I talk about longevity and the impact of an aging workforce. What is it going to look like when you have someone who is 70 years old who wants to be on your team? And how are you going to handle that? How are you going to manage that? That is our reality very soon. The next trend we're going to talk about is women in the workforce and what is happening with women as they are starting up new businesses, and how will that impact your teams. The third trend we're going to talk about is the role of diversity in general. If we could paint a picture of the leader, of the worker of the future, diversity is going to play a huge role in that. And then finally, the last thing we're going to talk about is freelancers, those people who don't want a paycheck from you, who want to be on your team but aren't quite part of the culture. How are we going to be doing that? Let's start talking about the first trend, and the first trend is longevity. So I want you to count down with me from 8 to 1. Everybody ready? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Congratulations. Another boomer just turned 50. That is how fast it is happening. Now you may say, big deal, who cares? Well, I'm a data geek. I spend a lot of time looking at data. And the longevity data is very striking. As you start to look, if you look at this slide right here, in a very short period of time, we're going to have the tipping point of people over 65. You may say, okay, who cares? So what if we have this generation who's over 65? What does it matter? Well, if you have not yet read the book called The 100-Year Life, I encourage each and every one of you to read it. It's out of Cambridge, and it talks about the impact of longevity, of biomedical technology and the advances that it has for us. And so the great news is we can live longer, and the challenge is my 15-year-old daughter is not only likely going to live to be 100, she is going to be healthy and want to be part of society at 100. So what does that mean in terms of education? What does that mean in terms of career? This whole idea of longevity is turning education and everything on its head. Is it realistic for her to get a degree at 20, 21? Maybe she gets a master's, maybe she gets a PhD, so maybe she's done by the time she's 29, 30. Is it realistic for her, knowing that she is going to have to work past 65, because there's no way that her income is going to last between 65 and 100 with just one career? The second trend is talking about women in the workforce and what is going on with women in the workforce. So before I talk about the stats, let me just explain a few terms that we're going to use. So the first term is employee engagement. I'm sure you've heard it. What does employee engagement actually mean? It means someone who is psychologically committed to make a positive contribution at work. So you think about someone who is engaged, you say, oh, they're engaged. Well, does that mean that they're actually ready to make a contribution at work? Gallup is the master in this and studying this. Worldwide, Gallup has found out that all of the employees around the world have a whopping 13% employee engagement. 13% of people around the world are psychologically committed to make a contribution at work. 13%. US, we're doing a little better. Anybody want to guess what the US number is? 20, 50, 30, 33. In the US, we're a little better. And here's the good news, and this is why I'm talking about this. In the US, men are at 33, and women are at 35. So in general, women are more engaged than men. You think, okay, that's great. Now, what else we need to know about that is that in addition to that, women also have more secondary degrees than men do. They have more graduate degrees than men do. So you think, okay, this is great. We have this group of people who are more engaged. They have more education, whether it's relevant or not, it's something to discuss, but they're more engaged, they have more education. So this is great. And yet, there's something that is stopping what is happening in terms of their progression in the workforce. Now, I want to be really clear. These are overall stats that I'm talking about. No one in this room would do this. This is what we call organizational bias. However, it's important to note that at entry level, we have more women entering the workforce. 53% of our entry level in the workforce is women, 47 men. You think, okay, move up a level, it's 26% women. Move up to the final level, it is 3%. Now, no one is doing this on purpose. I want to be really clear about that. This is organizational systemic bias. So FlexJobs did a great survey on this, and they found the top 3 things that women in general in the workforce want. What do they want? So we see the first one right here, and really what they're looking for is, can we just have some flexibility? It's like my life, right? Literally, 90-year-old parents, 15-year-old daughter, I just need some flexibility. I don't know anybody who doesn't want flexibility. However, in general, it tends to be the women who need it more. What else are they looking for? Number 2 and number 3 right here. They're saying, we would like some work-life balance, and we would like somewhat of salary parity. We know it's not going to be perfect, but that's what we're looking for. So you think, how hard can that be? Is that really that difficult? Well, it is for lots of reasons we're not going to get into. And as a result, the women have said, thank you very much. I have learned from you. I have earned from you. And I'm now going to start my own business. And you're going to start to see some pretty shocking numbers of how fast women are starting their own businesses. 1,800 a day in the US. 1,800 businesses a day are being started by women in the US. It is the fastest growing category of all the other categories combined. They have said, we've got the degrees, we've got the education. They don't have the funding, that's a problem. We'll get into that in a minute, but we're going to figure this out on our own. Thank you very much to get the flexibility that we want. Now you may say, okay, but who are these people and what do I need to know about these people? And really, Anne, are these firms that big a deal? Are they just like small solopreneurs working in their home? A few years ago, yeah, they were. Now you start to see 20% or more are $1 million plus. All right, these are not small companies anymore. What else do we know about these organizations and what they're doing? Interestingly enough, look at where it's happening. In the South. Right? What is going on in the South that we are seeing more of this happening? Lots of reasons. We can talk about it during break if you want to, but really it's more about kind of the rural versus the urban areas. What else do we know about these women? In general, women are waiting a little bit longer. They do it when they're older. Also, in general, they do it with less money than men do. So we have this group of people who are biding their time, who are trying to engage, who want to be part of your team, and for whatever reason it's not working out. And now let's overlay one last demographic trend when it comes to this. You can start to see in terms of demographic shifts who is really starting these companies. So as you start to think about your teams, as you start to think about the people who are working with you, we have a crisis going on right now. We have a crisis that women are there, they're engaged, and they're also thinking about what are they going to do next? And are they going to stay within the organization? Are they going to find funding? There is more angel investing for women by women, but we still have a long way to go. Men still get more funding, VC funding, than women. But they're making it happen. Talk about the third trend, diversity. Now, I just have to do some basic explanations here. So everybody gets confused sometimes. So what is diversity? Diversity is just things that are different. What is diversity and inclusion? You probably hear D&I. Diversity and inclusion, the way I often explain it is diversity without inclusion is inviting someone to the prom and not letting them dance. So inclusion is letting them be part of it, letting them be an understated understanding what's going on. So diversity, things are different. Inclusion is, are you part of it? Do you have a voice at the table? We are now adding the word be, as in belonging, to it now. Now you're hearing DIB, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. This is out of Yale. And the belonging is, do I really feel like I belong here? Like, yeah, I could have a seat at the table, but do I feel like I belong? So when we talk about diversity, that's what we're talking about. Again, I told you I'm a data geek. I just live and die by numbers. And so when we talk about diversity, let's just look at basic birth rates and death rates. Like, what is happening in the world? And I live in the East Coast, and I love Canada, but I'm really glad I don't live in Canada right now for many reasons. And one of them is because very soon we're going to have a crisis when it comes to birth rates and death rates, right? And so as you start to think about this, this is happening all over the world. Let's go across the pond. Let's go over to the UK. What are we seeing that's happening in the UK and all of Europe? Basically, the bottom line is that The older generations have few people of color, have few diversity. The younger generations have more. But because of immigration, we're going to start to see that shift a little bit. Let's take it home here to the U.S. What are we seeing in the U.S.? What we're seeing is 95% of our growth here in the U.S. is because of so-called minorities, so-called people who did not come over on the Mayflower. 95% of our growth is because of this. So you may think, well, what does that mean? Is that good news? Is it bad news? Well, it's good news because we are finally becoming the melting pot that we thought we were going to be. We are finally becoming a place where diversity is happening. Is it valued? Are people feeling included? That's another conversation, but it is happening. And what it means is that in a very short time, just about 20 years, we're going to have what's called majority-minority. Majority-minority is just a fancy way of saying we will no longer have any category of person who is so high or so low, and we will finally become the melting pot. And you think, okay, that's great, but what does it mean for me? I'm a project manager. Who cares? Well, here's the thing that's really important about this, is as you look at current education rates, and you look at the future workforce, your future people on your teams, we have an imbalance. We have more diversity. We have more people coming into the workforce who are younger. So if I was going to paint a picture of the future employee, I could tell you the person's going to be younger. I can tell you the person is going to be of color. I could tell you the person will probably have a 2-year degree, not necessarily a 4-year degree, and that they're going to have a lot of certificates. Because look at this number right here. This is right now who is getting bachelor 4-year degrees. And if you look at the pipeline, and if you look at the cost of education, if you look at the cost of 4-year degrees, it is going to be very difficult to start to get parity there. And so what keeps me up at night as I think about the future workforce, my own workforce, as well as global economy, like we have a future of people who are younger, who are of color, who the women don't necessarily want to be part of the workforce, who want to go out on their own, and who are not going to have the same education rate. It's not necessarily a bad thing. However, with our current paradigm of how we judge people and judge performance and how we hire people, it could become an issue. And so that's something to start to think about. So the fourth trend is freelancers. The fourth trend is what we call freelancers, contractors, all those people who don't collect a paycheck. If you can't read this, I'll read it out loud to you. What you have is someone who's an associate, i.e. a full-time employee in the bigger cubicle. You have someone who is a freelancer in the smaller cubicle. And basically what she's saying to him is, well, I would give you a bigger cubicle, but that would mean you're part of the team, right? And that's how freelancers are treated. That is how often organizations treat a freelancer. So what is it? It's someone who's self-employed. They don't want to collect a check for you. What we call the gig economy. They're going out, they're finding their own work. They do it for lots of reasons, which we'll get into. What do we know about freelancers? About 2 years ago, it was in the 30s in terms of the percentage of our workforce. It is now 43% of our workforce. 43% of our workforce, and you can start to see how the trends overlap, right? They don't want to work for you. Or they want to work for you as a contractor, as a freelancer. Wow. So what does that mean in terms of how our organizations are going to be structured, and what do we do? And what is it worth? Well, this is what it's currently worth right now in terms of our economy. And so we have to start paying attention to this. Why is this happening? Lots of reasons. Technology, globalization. It can be cheaper. People are looking for niche specialities. I just need someone to come in for this project. I need someone to come in for these 2 years. I don't want to bring them in at $400K and pay the benefits. I just want them in and out. So you think, okay, that makes sense. Where are they happening right now? You can see right now, more of them are in the suburbs. And the ones who are doing it is because they want to do it. They're like, yeah, I can make it work. I can somehow make it work. How are they making it work, and why are they doing it? 3 most common reasons that people are going freelance. The first is flexibility. There's that work again. The second reason, as you start to think about it, is they can do it where they are. They don't have to commute. I live in D.C. It's the second worst commute city in the country. 90 minutes is a short commute in D.C. right? If I'm a freelancer, I can just work from home. I can save myself 3 hours. When you think about the third reason, what is the third reason right there? Is because they can constantly learn and do different things. I can learn new things. I can be part of different teams. It's a way, again, of that holacracy where I'm going back and forth. I don't have to go up. Now, is it easy to be a freelancer? Is it something that they want to do? And who wants to do it? Well, look at the generational trends right here. 25% boomers, 30% X's, and now we're up to 50% for millennials.